You know, there's an old saying that you really can't judge a book by its cover. As Christians, how do we make judgments on others? That's today, live with John Anderson on The View from a Pew.
Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, thank you very much. It's 4 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock on this, the 14th day of November in the Lord's year 2012. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Wednesday edition of The View from a Pew. My special guest, John Anderson from Hope, Des Moines. Of course, Army Brad's in the house today, along with Bob Montserrat. We missed you yesterday, Robert.
Yeah, I was busy getting trained.
Now, what can you do now that you couldn't do on Monday? You said you were trained. I'm just testing.
Well,
Did you flunk the training?
Maybe. That's to be seen. You know, you have to put it into action down the road in the future to see if if you've learned anything. And I haven't had that chance yet.
What did they teach you? Because if it's CPR, Father Tattoo would volunteer for you to practice.
It's trying to. It was crisis negotiation type training.
Crisis negotiations.
Right. You when you're dealing with people that are
like
upset,
a hostage situation?
It could be, yeah, sure. Or barricade and how to deal with people.
Let's just say for a minute that I'm the hostage taker and I am massively armed. I have Father Tattoo duct taped from head to toe with 2 straws coming out for a breathing nose. And I've got a machete and what's that knife at the end of the gun? Bayonet. I've got a machete, a bayonet, and a, give me a gun, somebody, M15, 16.
16 is
M16 to his head, and I've got him wrapped in TNT. And I've got the button on me, buddy. So what are you going to tell me to let him go?
And you're using Father Tattoo as the hostage.
He's the hostage.
You're pretty knowledgeable about that. I feel like you've done this before, maybe.
I watch a lot of CSI. And so we'll role play a little. All right, you dirty copper. I got the little tattooed freak. Now, what do you want to get him back?
Does anybody else think this show is going horribly downhill?
Do you want him back, dirty copper, or not?
Well, the first thing you need to do is try to speak and calm the person down and try to get rapport between the person that's calling you a dirty copper and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to it, Mac. You know, I just can't give away these secrets. You know what I mean?
I guess you escaped today, little tattooed freak. That's one of the best lines I've come up with.
With Tattoo, we would dare you.
We actually use...
I don't think you have it in you to do it, Mac.
Yeah, really?
You know, Mac, we actually use Tattooed Freak in a Rebels Cause radio, which you can hear on KTIA at 11 o'clock on Saturdays.
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Well, here, I'll just do this right now. I got nothing to live for, so we're both going to die. Bye-bye. Boom. Tattoo pieces all over the walls.
It'd be colorful.
That's it.
At least.
Family-friendly radio here.
That's right. That's right. It's no different than a video game. Good heavens. All right. Although the Dirty Coppers line, I think I stole that from, what was the guy with the yellow suit that played Hamilton? No, not Hamilton. What am I thinking of? Madonna was in the movie.
Dick Tracy?
Dick Tracy. That's right. Didn't they used to say Dirty Coppers? Okay. All right. So, making judgments based on the book. Now, here's what we're going to talk about today. And we've got a special guest in the house, Kurt Sheriff, who's going to tell us a little bit about his story and why it's important that as Christians we take the lead in not making judgments based on the book. And I think that's a natural defense. You know, if I've always been told that a baby's first encounter with a dog or a cat will determine whether they're a dog or a cat person. If a baby is lying there, like Bam Bam or Pebbles, and the dog comes up and scares her and barks and looms over her, that baby is going to be scared of kids. And it's going to be really hard to get over that. So I think it's important that we as Christians understand how we really have to take the lead in not judging people by the cover and getting in and looking at what God has created for them to be uniquely themselves on the inside. So, Kurt, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Now, you are, tell me a little bit about your story. Where were you born?
I was born in Fort Dodge.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. At least I was born. And I spent most of my youth in traveling around the country. My dad had different jobs, and we traveled all over the country.
Okay.
The first part of my life was right here in Des Moines, and that's where I come to know Christianity. But from there, when we started moving away and bouncing around the country, I kind of fell away from it, and it's been a long journey getting back.
How old are you?
Now you're getting personal, Mac.
Yes, I am. Oh, hey, you have no idea how personal this is going to get. You did sign the release form, right, John? You got him to sign the release form?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You look of a man of about 48.
Well, no, I appreciate that. I'm 62, actually.
62, okay. See, note to other hosts, always go young, and then they
undershoot.
feel good about
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah.
I thought that was a thing for women.
Well,
Are you treating this
worked
guy-
for him. I'm just saying. All right. So, how did you fall away from Christianity?
Well, if you don't stay in the Word and consistently seek God, you know what, you're away from it, and you forget about it, and that's a sad part of real life.
Kurt, some of what I remember you telling me, a part of your story that led you into the recovery movement as well, is
Hold
that
on just a second.
yeah,
They're talking.
it started to become something where you went and chased after a lot of worldly things with your businesses, and then that led to some financial struggles as well.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate not to have alcohol or drug addiction or anything like that. Not that I
Sure,
haven't
make fun of the
indulged.
drunk in the room. Thanks.
But I falling away from Christianity is what I did was seeking material things and
Other idols.
other idols. Yeah, exactly. Good point. I was all after the almighty dollar, and that's not the right way to go. You know, right now I'm poor and happy.
You're poor and happy. So you're
Then you're not really poor.
Yeah, I
you
was
just don't
gonna
have
say,
very
you're
much money.
immensely
There's a
rich.
difference.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have the material things I'd love to have, but I've got my church and a good group of people around me. So
So
That
was
makes me
there
very
a?
rich.
Do you have kids? Was there a wife at one point? Did you have a family? Do you still have that family?
I have a ex-wife and 3 beautiful kids.
Okay. Do they all talk to you?
Actually, no. They've grown and moved on, and they've got their own lives that
Sure.
they're living. But I do know that they are spiritually in the Word.
Okay. Grounded.
Yep, they're grounded, doing well.
Yep. Was there a low bottom or a high bottom for you in your life?
A low bottom would have to probably be when I lost all my businesses and ended up being homeless and at one point I was sleeping in a park.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's kind of unrealistic, but yet very true. When I never thought it would ever happen to me, because I've always been fairly successful, always had $1 in my pocket and knew how to get another $1. And all of a sudden, just everything went kapoof, and there I was, and I had everything that I had sunk into that business. So
What made it go kapoof? Don't tell me George Bush did it. See, it's Bush's fault.
I think it might have been money management. Probably didn't have the right guidance, and maybe I should have spoke to you when I was in.
Go. Here. Just put 5s and 10s, please, in a brown envelope.
I think one of the things that Kurt's story illustrates is that, Mac, you talk about judging a book by its cover. One of the perceptions that I think a lot of people have, including Christians, is that people that are down and out on their luck, or that are homeless or in a shelter, that they've done it to themselves, that is completely all their fault. And we kind of forget the fact that we live in a broken, sinful world where there's evil and corruption, and we're not perfect. And what I hear Kurt saying is there are some things that he could have done better, and he's taken responsibility for those in his life. At the same time, too, we can't just put a blanket statement on people and say, well, they're all hopeless charity cases, and there's no hope
And
for
we
them.
could have been in the same situation if we weren't lucky a couple places we weren't even aware of it. So.
Right. Yep. And I think in the church, we see that false assumption about people a lot.
Allow me to take the devil's advocate for just a minute.
Sure.
Okay. And I don't feel this way. Mm-hmm. I know these words because I used to feel more this way. Mm-hmm. Part of that was because I had a bleeding heart liberal partner on the radio, and he believed that. I mean, he's Obamacare times 10. He literally believes that the tax rate on most people ought to be somewhere around 80 to 90%, and that the government just take care of every single need that you have. So what about those people who, and I'm not talking about mentally deficient. Okay?
Sure.
I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about hardcore addicts or alcoholics, even though they are responsible for being there. There is some genetics or some biology which says maybe that's why they're there.
Sure.
What about the folks that just say, wow, every time I pop out a kid, I get $259 from the state for housing, Section 8, and then I get $1.95 for food stamps, which I can always buy beer and cigarettes with. And I can go to church to church to church to church and wear my raggedy clothes and drag my poor little baby behind me in a broken down red wagon with 3 wheels, and the money comes out. What about those people? Because they exist.
They absolutely do. And I think this is a fair assumption, and Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some in a part of our church. I mean, I know there are people that bounce from place to place and continue to make decisions that cycle them down in this spiral.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Kurt?
Oh, definitely. And that's a sad thing to see, but it does happen.
But
Absolutely.
we as the church, and I'm not speaking about hope, we as the Christian community don't seem to have the fortitude, including myself, to walk up to these people and say, hey, you don't need this free meal. Okay, there is a limit to the food that we put out. I think about, now I will talk about hope for a minute. We have an amazing Thursday night ministry.
Yep.
Where we just open the doors, and one week we collect clothes, and the next week we collect food, and our gymnasium, which is a full-size gymnasium, is packed with clothing and food, and we ask no questions. We allow people to come in and get what they want. Well, because I'm not a good enough Christian sometimes, I'll watch these people and watch them go out to their 2009 Ford pickup, double quad cab, and put all the children in there, and then follow them to the next church that's doing that on a Thursday night.
Of course, they borrowed that, from a rich friend.
No, Obama gave it to them.
I think you're right. You're right, Mac. There is a lot of abuse, and that is a tough, balanced way. And I'm guessing when we come back, we can kind of figure out how we toe that line as Christians and not go to one extreme of charity over the other.
Yeah, how do we weigh that abuse? I think that's great. That's the conversation. Kurt is with us, John is with us, Bob is with us, Brad is with us, Tattoo's with us. I'm here. I'm live. I'm J. Michael McCoy. And if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on The Truth. 99.3 KTIA, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day one of WebcastOneLive.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Ever feel like there's more to life? God offers more. Chat now with an online coach at groundwire.net.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Have you ever been told you're not a good enough Christian? Well, we have too. Join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. Now here's your host, president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome back. 21 minutes after the hour on the 14th day of November in the Lord's year 2012. I want to wish my mother a happy birthday today. She is 21. That's right. My mom's 21 today. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. I hope you're having a great day back there in Connecticut.
Always shoot low.
Always shoot low. That's right. That's right. Now, I think she's 83. She might be 84. Her and my dad bounce back and forth. Like
Sure.
I can't remember if her birthday comes first or his. Anyway, if I could only be as smart and wicked as she is when I get to her age, that'd be wonderful. Wicked in a good way. All right. Pastor John Anderson is here from Lutheran Church of Hope. Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat. Anything interesting on the chat?
Let me go look. Yeah, Chris was talking about his cruise. He liked the food.
He was talking about the buffets on the cruise.
Yeah, those are good.
Army Brad in the house, Father Tattoo running the show, and our guest is Kurt Sheriff. Kurt has been a successful business person. He has been a faithful follower of Christ, and he has been homeless, and he has been penniless, and he has now found his way back to a peace and serenity which isn't surrounded by idols such as businesses, coins, cars, things like that. I mean, it's amazing. You know, when you're growing up, you think idols are like golden calves or stuff like that. But in modern day, there are cars. there are houses, there are jewelry, there are all those things that make us more worldly, that we choose to, in a way, honor and worship. And we were talking about weighing in on the abuse of people who for people who take charity, that they take the advantage of having a helping hand give them food or clothing or shelter or whatever it is, and those people that abuse that. John, and you're a pastor. The words of J. Michael McCoy do not necessarily mean those of Hope or John Anderson, because as a person, I want to drug test everybody that comes in for something free, and I'm dead serious. You're not coming in here drunk and getting clothing and food when there's some family over there that needs it worse than you do. Well, then there are the people, and I love these people, I know these people who would say, Mac, that guy's down and out. He doesn't have a family anymore. He's been thrown out. He's unemployable. He's drunk 24/7. Give the guy a can of corn, for God's sakes. At least he's not robbing come and go.
Yep. And that is the tricky balance that we live in, I believe, as Christians. And one of the things that Kurt has really helped me understand is that these people that we're helping are people. That has been the biggest eye-opener for me in our 5 years as a church at our downtown campus. Is we specifically went after the people that nobody else was reaching. And we've had to toe that line between, on one extreme as Christians, not doing anything, which I don't believe the Bible calls us to that, or on the other extreme, to just do everything, and then we run the risk of enabling. And there's a lot of Christian literature out there right now. There's a book called When Helping Hurts. And this is just something people
When helping
hurts. And people aren't aware of this idea that actually, when we give people what we perceive that they need, we can end up hurting them in the long run. And so one of the things that Kurt is a part of at the church now is this benevolence committee, where we try to make a fair and accurate assessment of when people say, I need $250 for rent. Really? When people say, I need $50 for gas because I need to go visit my cousin Fred in Missouri.
Okay.
Really? So then Kurt's on this team where they pray through that and talk about those different scenarios.
Why isn't, okay, now I'm the president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club. I admit it. My heart isn't, in the place of where a pastor is or anything like that. But my first thought is, okay, let's jump in your car. We'll go fill it up. Or, okay, give me the name of your landlord and I'll call him and make sure he gets the money. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. It isn't forget it, pal. It's, okay, trust, but verify.
Kurt, what are your thoughts on that when you think about a lot of our people that come through and ask for things?
Well, being part of the benevolence committee, I just had a training meeting, my first one today. One of the things we do is we look at each case individually.
Okay.
And we pray about it, and we make a judgment according to what God wants us to do. Basically, as it's a very, very hard decision when we have to say no, but we do have to say it from time to time. So.
Yeah.
And do you say no sometimes because funds aren't available?
No, we say no because of the enabling.
Okay.
Because if we feel like that person, if we helped them, next month they're going to be back with the same problem, we actually try to go farther with that and expand on, if they need some financial counseling, if they need, another place to stay, whatever, we give them the guidance to actually solve their problems, not necessarily financially.
And so, something that I hear Kurt saying is, if it's not one of those two extremes, we do nothing or we enable. If we go stay in the middle of the road, it's messy. And this is me getting a little on my soapbox, but a lot of times in the church, we don't want to get messy. We don't want to go to the point in people's lives where we actually have to get to know them, listen to them, seek to understand them, and then make a decision rather than just saying they're a drunk, forget you, or I'm going to do everything for you and let you really go into invade every boundary that I have, and then we end up enabling you.
You know, one of the precepts in most 12-step programs is you're drunk. When you are sober, you come back and see me, and I will help you. When you're sober, okay, and sober just takes, I mean, if you're really bad, it takes 72 hours. For most people, it's just a night. And I found that astonishing because the first thing I thought in a 12-step program, you know, you've been drinking all day and you're miserable, and so you call your buddy in the 12-step program and you say, you know, come and help me. And they'll say, when you're sober, I will be there to help you.
Do you agree with that?
I didn't until I got sober.
Yeah.
And after I got sober, I understood it.
Then you saw the value in it.
Yeah, because I saw people say to me, don't call me after you drink. There's nothing I can do.
Right.
You call me before.
Yep. They're helping you help yourself in a way.
They're helping me learn how to fish rather than, okay, you got yourself in a pickle tonight. Pickle. You got yourself in a pickle tonight, I'll come bail you out.
Right.
Because then the person, the addict, the victim says, well, if I'm drunk, they'll help me. It's pretty simple to figure out. If I'm drunk, they'll come help me.
I think one of the things that I hear a lot behind Mac, when you were kind of playing the devil's advocate there and saying, you know, they're going to go and hop in their nice car and go home to their flat screen TV and all this kind of thing. There is a fear of being abused, and I think that is a perfectly legitimate
from the church's standpoint.
From the church's standpoint, and we feel that a lot. I mean, we really want to give help to the people that really need it. We don't want to enable people. At the same time, at the end of the day, if you ask me which ditch are you going to err on the side of, it's always going to be compassion.
Yes, I agree.
Because Bob helped me out with this verse that I was thinking of. It's from Matthew 25. The whole paragraph is verses 34 through 40. When Jesus talks about when you see these people that are in need, see them as me, that you are actually serving me. And he says, when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was in prison, you came to visit me. It doesn't say, and then make sure you do a background check and make sure that they get all cleaned up, and then you can help them. That's not what I see in Scripture.
All right, and I'm just being a devil's advocate. So and there are people who know Scripture that are going to tell me I'm wrong, and I know that I'm not completely right. You know, Charles Spurgeon says something that I think I will always live by. Hold on, I just had one of those brain tutus.
It was that good, huh?
I'm sorry, it was that good. What was it? I just had it on my not deception, discernment. The difference between, I'm sorry for that 30 seconds of lost time that you'll never get back. The difference between discernment is not knowing right from wrong. It's knowing right from almost right.
Okay.
So, and what that taught me is I think that's one of my spiritual gifts. I'm not trying to be, I just think it is. So I always thought, well, discern right or wrong. You're wrong, you're right, you're wrong. But Charles Spurgeon writes that it's the difference between right and almost right. That's discernment.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I think that's what Kurt's saying with this team that discerns the benevolence needs is a lot of times it's not right or wrong. And you're choosing between two really good options, and that's where you just have to trust these are God's people. They're God's children. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we can get really legalistic as Christians to think the entire world is on our shoulders. And we need to go out and we need to save every single person and get every single person an apartment and all that. That's a lot of pressure to put on ourselves.
John Annison is here, and he's got Kurt Sheriff here, who is part of the benevolent team at Hope downtown. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat. So what was Chris's favorite food on the buffet?
Bacon.
Army. See,
that really relates to what we're talking about.
I'm just saying, that's how engaged we are in the conversation.
You know, homeless people, bacon.
All right, so as a church, and I'm not speaking of a specific church, but as the church, all right, now this is me thinking, which gets me in trouble. So I've got 6,000 people rolling through on a Thursday night picking up food, clothing, and a free meal. Why not ask them to register? Doesn't cost anything. We just want you to check in with us. We want to know how to get a hold of you. We want to know how to follow up with you. We want to get a picture of you and put you in a card catalog or in a database so we can keep track of you. So if you really need something. Now, I'm talking out of the corner of my mouth a little bit because what I'm really doing, well, that sounds terrible. Well, but that's my motivation.
I hear what
my
you're saying.
motivation is not to follow up with them. My motivation is to then share that database with every other church so we see if there's somebody just panhandling their way through life and, in fact, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm. And that is a tough balance to live in. I mean, Kurt could speak to this better than I can in terms of the processes that we have in place. I mean, we don't just send people to the gym and they can just take whatever they want. I mean, I think there is a system, right, in terms of what happens.
Well, yeah, you have to eat the meal.
Sure.
You know, and that's one of the things we have to do is if you want to go down to the gym, you have to eat there. Then there's ladies that go around and give you time cards that you have a 15-minute span where you can go down and get what you want.
Okay.
So there are some boundaries, yeah.
Yeah, there's some boundaries, and it's not necessarily get what you want. It's basically get what's donated or what's available. Mm-hmm. So if you need a gallon of milk, chances are you're not going to get it down there. You know? So there is a lot of alternatives that you can go to.
Yep.
Okay. People who are in transformation in their life, how do we take care of them? I understand the left side. I understand the right. Jesus is somewhere in the middle. How do we work on that? We're coming back live here on The Truth. 99.3 KTIA, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of WebcastOneLive.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome back. 14th day of November in the Lord's year 2012. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is The View from a Pew here on KTIA and webcast1live.com. Those of you that listen to this program often, well, if you're new listening, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. It's really important if you don't that you let me know why. I had restaurants for years, and I always told people, thanks for telling me my cheeseburgers are good, but I need to know when they're not. And those were the most helpful comments. So if you have constructive criticism or input, I would love to hear it. For those of you who are familiar with my background, for many years I did a talk show on 98.3 with a little left-wing punk named Brad. I'm sorry, that wasn't very Christ-like. With this Obama... no, that's not probably good either. With this kid named Bradshaw. And he was as far left as... Well, I'm moderate. We all know I'm a moderate. But he was very far left. Well, Bradshaw and I are going to begin a daily show again. And it's going to be focused on Central Iowa and our community. It's not going to be a faith-based show, although it's kind of hard to avoid faith when the little rugrat has no soul, has no relationship with God. By the way, these words are not that expression of John Anderson at all. That's going to start happening like once a week. We're going to do it tomorrow at 2:15 to 2:45 here at webcast1live.com. And at maxworldlive.com. And does Bradshaw have a player on his site? Do you know? No. All right. And then by the second week of January, I believe will be a daily hour-long show. And again, we're going to be focused primarily on the things that are going on in our community, which is what we did. I did so very well, and he just basically hung on. Now, for those of you who have never heard me talk, you think I'm a pompous, arrogant man, and I'm not. I love Bradshaw. He's here at my place by my request, and I'm very, very happy to have him back and getting ready to do this show. We don't know what it's going to be called yet. You're working on that, Dan.
Don't involve me in this.
Well, you're the producer.
You don't have to tell people that.
Oh, I see. You don't want to admit to it, huh?
I have no
Admit
idea
to
what
nothing,
you're talking about.
deny everything, make counter accusations whenever possible.
Okay.
Bradshaw, I don't even know who he is.
Who's that?
Yeah.
All right.
But we do need to pray for him.
All I know is Mac is the most humble person I know.
Thank you. Thank you. And if there was a bigger audience, I'd say that more often. But,
Right.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm very comfortable in my own skin around Pastor Anderson and Kurt and all my buddies around me. So I have a tendency of being just this way. And I'm sure I'll get a nightmare tonight from God. Mac, what happened to your humility at 3:40 this afternoon? I was listening. Remember, I'm on Facebook and I have webcast1live.com. All right. Life transformations. And how we view them as Christians. Because we really are horrible at being like Jesus.
We can be, absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the time, yes.
I can be horrible. I'll just speak for myself. I can be
Absolutely.
horrible.
Yeah.
Although I'm getting better. I've prayed that the Lord give me a servant's heart for people who have made poor choices.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't put all these people lumped into, what bad luck they had.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we're called to. I think that's a great point.
Well, but what are we called?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say. Does it say in the Bible, teach a man to fish? Or give a man a fish he'll eat for a day?
I don't think that phrase is in the Bible.
Okay, because that's kind of my motto. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. Well, the problem is a lot of people say, I don't want to learn how to fish. Just give me the fish.
Yeah. And that is the goal. However, I just don't think we can lump traditionally what happens in the church is we lump all these people that are going through struggles in life into one pot. There's the fortunate and there's the less fortunate. Unfortunately, in the scripture, I don't see a world that is that black and white. When Jesus steps into a world that is very gray, and one of my favorite verses is John 1:14, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So Jesus decides, I'm going to get my hands very dirty in the brokenness of this world. Jesus comes and he lives in obscurity for 30 years and is not noticed. And then all of a sudden he comes on the scene and does 3 years of ministry. What was Jesus doing for those 30 years? I think he was listening. I think he was getting to know the culture around him. He was hanging out with people and getting to know their stories, being with his family. He was being what we call in the church incarnational. And I think that's what we struggle to do with those that are less fortunate, is be incarnational.
Here's a question. I love this question. You and I may debate this one day.
Mm-hmm.
Did Jesus know for those first 30 years who he was?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and why do you say that so boldly, Farmer Brad?
Because farmer.
Army Brad. Sorry.
When did I start farming? Now I'm back on my heels because I was called farmer. He always knew who he was.
Yes, but
you want me to pull it out? I just know
saying,
in my heart that the answer is yes.
Can an 8-year-old have a conception of what it means that they are God? Is that what you're asking?
When was it that he ripped into the tabernacle or to the temple? What wasn't he 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 at that time?
When they lost him, when his parents lost him, and he was hanging out in the temple.
Yeah,
12.
Yeah.
So do you think at that time he knew that his relationship? Now here's the question: did he know that his relationship with his Creator was different than everybody else's?
I don't know if I can answer that yes or no, but the people that he was talking to, the scholars, were very impressed with what he was saying.
But did he know? Did God wake him up in the middle of the night and say, hey, you're my kid. You're special.
I'm sure his mom and dad told him that.
The angels came to his parents before he was even born. They knew something was special.
Did your dad ever have to tell you that you were his son, or did you just know?
I'm adopted. Bad question.
Bad
Ask
question.
him.
Yeah.
Brad's adopted too. Ask Bob.
That seems to be a common theme here. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to think about in humanistic terms. You just know. When you have a loving parent, which I understand not everybody does, and those of us that have had that are extremely fortunate. When you have a loving parent, a loving father in this instance, and you're loved as a son or a daughter, I think you just know.
But there had to be, I mean, are you telling me that on the cross, he thought he was just like Barabbas? That he was
in what way?
Well, that he was no different from any other man down there?
He knew.
Oh, he knew exactly what he's doing at that point.
Okay, but
absolutely.
Okay, so black and white, where's the gray? When did he know? We don't know. I'm asking for a question. There's no, show me the Bible verse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that would be a wonderful debate. But obviously it needs to be based biblically, and I'm not sure we could answer that biblically because there's no record.
Mm-hmm.
But we know at some point when the hound of heaven catches us, we know that moment in which we were called, born again, whatever term you want to use. Yeah. We know that. So did Jesus get to know that? Did he ever have that feeling when the Holy Spirit filled him up and God came and bit him on the backside and said, yep, you're called?
It depends how depends how you define it. It depends how you define called, because if you ask it that way, absolutely not. Jesus did not need to be saved. We believe as Lutherans, Jesus is 100% human and 100% God. And so there was no point where he needed to be convinced that he needed to be rescued or saved from his sins or that he was human. He was God. He's the only perfect person to have ever lived. So when you phrase it that way, no, he didn't need to be saved. All along. He didn't need to be saved. He was the Savior.
Yeah, he was. I'm kind of talking as if there were two people here, or there was two deities, and there was only one.
That's the mystery of the Trinity. And when you get that one figured out, let me know.
I think we just did. Okay, we're coming back. Last segment. Pastor John Anderson in the house. Kurt Sheriff, Army Brad. Sorry, I just farmer. I like farmers. I was a farmer. And the rest of us live here on 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, and it's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
Okay, welcome back. 10 before the top, Salem Radio Network News at 4:03. Pastor Michael Mudloff with True Blue. And coming up tomorrow, you've got a big show on Rebels Cause Radio. You have some special guest?
Well, we've actually had a whole slew of them, but this week is going to be Timothy Brendel. And actually,
I don't know who that is.
Timothy Brendel is a guy from Lamp Mode Recordings. He recently released a album called Restoration.
Hip hop?
It is hip hop.
You and your what is this
and
thing with
Covenant.
hip-hop?
He's a Covenant Seminary student and a very knowledgeable guy, and he should have a lot of fun things to say. And I like the vessel of hip hop because of the message it can deliver. No other form of music can deliver the kind of message that hip hop has the capability of doing.
You know, we've got a hip hop Christian artist here in Des Moines, and I'll bring you her album. And her album has like 9 original songs, and 2 of them I really like.
Cool.
But I'll bring it to you, and you can listen to it, and then we'll have her on one day.
We'll do that.
I can't remember her name right now, though, but we'll do that.
Clearly, she made an impact.
She did. She was at Testify. She was at Testify last week. I have a group of friends that meet the first Wednesday of the month at Incredible Pizza in Des Moines. We call it Testify. We get an author or a preacher or a pastor or a speaker on Skype live, and we ask questions back and forth. Somebody gives their testimony, and we share prayer requests and some of the things we need to pray for. And you're invited. It's December 5th will be the next one. Testify at Incredible Pizza. You can find out more information on my Facebook page. All right. My guest is Pastor John Anderson from Lutheran Church of Hope, downtown.
Des Moines.
Des Moines, sorry. And one of the people on his benevolence team, Kurt Sheriff. I've also got Army Brad, Bob Montser at the Cat in the Hat, and, of course, Father Tattoo, the star of the show. We're talking about when helping hurts, and what do you do when people are going through life transformation and they need a hand up, they need a hand out, And how do you tell the difference between the ones who genuinely need it or who are abusing it? And I'm reminded of the off-color joke about, well, I won't tell you. Anyway, but, people who stand at the intersection of 8035 and Merle Hay Road, those people make a living doing that.
There are some people that take advantage of the system.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know people who make $700, $800, $900 a week working 4 or 5 days.
You mean those
cash.
guys with the safety vests and the buckets aren't really from some church doing some great world work?
Not usually.
Huh.
If I was going to panhandle, that's exactly what I'd do. I'd go get a yellow vest and I'd have a sign, First Church of God, and
yeah, they dress up nice. I don't typically give them money because I give to my church, and then I give as I see fit, and I don't think giving to another church is productive. But yeah, I guess I assumed they were from a church.
Here's the opposite end of the spectrum, and this is partly why I wanted to have Kurt come with me today. Is there are those cases, and unfortunately, a few rotten eggs can ruin the whole batch sometimes, and then we project that on the rest of the group. Here's a guy that I've met in Kurt the last few years that knew he was at fault, knew some of the mistakes he made, and has admitted those, and now has gone through our shelter system, went through Hope Ministries, which is a great organization here in Des Moines. Right. They have a place called the Door of Faith, which is kind of their last stop. And I'm going to have Kurt tell you more about that. But coming full circle now, Kurt is in charge of our transportation ministry, not just Hope Des Moines, but for all of Hope. And
good for
we
you.
have, how many buses, Kurt, do we have?
We have 3 operational and 1 not.
So full-size school buses that run multiple times a week, and Kurt coordinates all that. So here's a guy that was down and out, the bottom of the barrel, and is now giving back and serving and helping out those same people that he was once a part of. And I think that's an incredible journey. And I know that the Door of Faith, I want to give a shout out to Hope Ministries, but I know the Door of Faith was impactful in your journey. I didn't know if you wanted to just say a little bit about what you learned there during your time.
Well, Door of Faith is kind of a Christian-based shelter. What they do there is they teach you how to get back on your feet, to grow in your community, and live life with hope, and that hence Hope Ministries. They do a fantastic job there.
Yeah, they do. I'm trying to think of the guy that runs it. I can see him. The Door of Faith.
Leon.
Yeah. And I think Kurt is a great example of what we see a lot, and what I get to see as a pastor is one of the neatest things. Kurt mentioned this at the beginning. He is just as content now, if not more content, than when he had everything. And this is not a slam on anyone. It's just a reality that I live in, is the people around me that have the least seem to serve the most. And that has been a powerful impact on my life to see, and really puts
Do
things
they really have the
in
least,
perspective.
though? Or is it just from our worldly vision, which is flawed in my mind? They have all the nice toys, but they don't have the happiness and the glow in their heart.
Yeah. And wouldn't you say that's kind of your story in a nutshell?
Yeah, pretty much. There. Yeah. When I had all the toys, why, I thought I was happy, but I really wasn't.
Yeah. And it inspires me, because as Americans, as Western Christians, we put on the blinders a lot, and we just think, woe is me, and we do a lot of navel gazing. If we could just get outside of ourselves, I think this is why mission trips are so important. This is why when people, and I can only speak for Hope, that when people come back from mission trips, they're just going, what have I been doing with my life?
Yeah,
and a little perspective will go a long way.
I've heard that.
Will go a long way.
I think it's also important that we break out of the box and we realize that the idols that God talks about in the scriptures are not really golden calves, and they're not really made out of bronze and funny faces. They're the cars, the houses, the suits, the jewelry, the status that we give ourselves as a worldly human. And in fact, the idols God was talking about are those.
And none of those things are bad in and of themselves. Those are all can be good things. But when we pursue a life of simplicity, sometimes there's a lot more space and room in our lives for God to fill.
Well, when we remember that everything we have is God's.
Yeah.
Everything we have is God's. What mortgage payment are you making to God at the end of the month? 25%? 15%? How much time? What are you giving to God? He gave it all to you to use. How do you use it to help your fellow man? Because it isn't for you to build more idols. It's just not. Okay. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, John. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Army.
Farmer.
Yeah, never mind you. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and remember, the only thing that I ask you to do is just pray.